Welcome back, everybody, to Hell Hath No Fury. I am your host, Lindsay.
And I'm your host, Faye. Welcome.
Welcome back, everyone. And we are talking about a very interesting topic that we have both kind of expressed our opinions about very briefly online previously. But we decided that we would go through in more depth about it this time round. So, Faye, would you like to introduce the topic
I would
of
love to
this?
introduce the topic. Today we'll be talking, well, you've clicked on this, you know what it's about. Bimbocore, Barbiecore, what the fuck is it? And do we like it or not? Those of you who follow us on social media probably know the answer already, but we're going to talk about it today. I'll start off by saying that I can hear the comments already. Women should be able to express themselves. Metal doesn't have to be dark, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I agree. This is not what this is about. Back when the whole Barbiecore, Bimbocore thing was very like trendy, was also when the Barbie film came out, and I feel like this whole Barbie aesthetic just exploded everywhere. And that's fine. Like that has its uses, I guess. I just think it was a very sort of, how do I put this? I'm gonna sound so millennial, but like TikTok friendly trend. Do you know what I mean? Like it was born purely from aesthetics. I feel like the music wasn't the most important part of this bimbocore barbiecore focus.
Yeah.
Despite some of the artists saying otherwise, that their lyrics have meaning. That may be. But after doing a lot of research, I just feel it's a very they're trying to mainstream metal,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not what metal's about. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm by no means a purist. Like everyone's welcome in the metal community, like everyone.
Yeah.
But metal is metal. There are some things you just don't change about it. There's a reason it's got the longevity it has, and
Yeah.
I don't feel that Barbiecore Bimbocore has a place, really.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree with that. That was one of my points that I listed as well. This is a TikTok trend. And like all trends, they fizzle out and die very, very quickly.
Mm.
Um, like most things do now, thanks to social media, TikTok especially, trends come and go and they have absolutely no substance to them whatsoever. And that's what I feel about Bimbocore.
Yeah. I remember one Barbiecore Bimbocore artist, Scene Queen. She was on
Yeah.
the cover of Metal Hammer magazine. And I remember at the time I retweeted it and I posted it saying my personal criticism of it. The editor in chief of Metal Hammer DM'd me. Uh, Great woman, by the way. Lots of respect to her. Explaining why they did it. And I get it, it's publicity, right? It's shock value. And that's what this whole thing is about. It's shock and people's reactions, because art, whether it's a bad reaction or a good reaction, you're still getting a reaction out of people. So I understand the whole sort of from a publicity point of view, it's popular and it can be sort of blown up everywhere. But I do think it was riding the coattails of the Barbie film hype. I think that really made it popular.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's a trend. It luckily has fizzled out as far as I know. I know they're touring and they're still popular, but I don't see it everywhere now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel like
Absolutely.
that's a good thing. Yeah.
I
And
honestly think Scene Queen in particular, I know it was her that kind of coined the bimbo core kind of movement within the metalcore subgenre. Um,
mm,
I honestly think it's a slap in the face to feminism. And I honestly don't think that she is trying to promote feminism and femininity and taking all that back. It's, we spent years as a sex, females spent years and years fighting for equal rights to prove that we're not just second class citizens that are only worthy of running a household and bearing children with no intelligence whatsoever. We've come away from that. And, those that came before us spent decades upon hundreds of years, in fact, fighting against that stereotype just to bring it full circle and rely on that stereotype again. Absolutely not. No way.
connected to that, one of my points is I feel like if you look at the metal scene, I don't just mean the musicians, but the women working just in the metal scene in general, there isn't one of them, you two, I don't feel the need to be feminine and girly. Do you know?
No.
I can be myself. I'm a woman. I'm not trying to be like masculine and aggressive. Like, I'm female. I look female. I like that. However, I don't feel the need to like do the whole girly aesthetic thing and try and rely on that to fit in. I feel like I went to see Crypta, the
Yeah.
all female death metal band the other day. They were fucking sick, and they weren't jumping around in pink bikinis like with shitty music, in my
Yeah.
opinion. Um, they were staying true to the roots of metal, their death
Yeah.
metal, but with their own feminine spin on it. And it was
Yeah.
amazing. And it was so authentic, and everyone, men and women, were just so involved and loving it. Like, their
Yeah.
style, their brand is fantastic. They're doing so many good things for women in the metal scene.
Yeah.
And I have huge respect for that.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely.
I feel like metal, whether you like it or not, has masculine roots, and that's
Hmm.
just the way it is. Obviously, there is place for everyone in the metal community, all races, all genders, all everyone. However, it comes from masculine roots. It is aggressive.
Yeah.
It is dark and it's aesthetic. That's what makes it it.
Yeah.
And I don't. That doesn't need changing. And if you don't like that, maybe don't try and make metal music.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I completely agree. I mean, Nervosa, Crypta, Christina Scabia, Alyssa Whiteglutz, all these metal performers, just to name a few, they are feminine. They embrace femininity. They are feminists. They present, the female status within a very male-centered genre of music. And they can do it all without having to exploit themselves and jump about in pink glitter and being incredibly obscene for the shock factor and talking about sex all the time and stuff. I mean, I I'm not saying that nobody should listen to Scene Queen, let's cancel Scene Queen and all this nonsense. I'm not saying that at all. But I think what she's doing is actually quite dangerous. And you can be sexy, you can be attractive, you can, give off this aura of femininity without having to resort to that. And there are plenty of female fronted metal bands or female metal bands in general who do that perfectly. I mean, even pop acts these days, Lady Gaga, for example, Ariana Grande, artists like that, they don't resort to that early 2000s Bimbocore aesthetic that we've all grown past now. They present themselves in a feminine way that doesn't resort to that base level nonsense. And I think it's absolutely disgusting. Maybe I'm talking not just from a metal point of view, but as a mother of a young daughter as well. I don't want my kids to see that and think that that's completely acceptable. It's purely for the shock factor. That's not how women should be perceived. We're way beyond that now. And just let it fizzle out and die like the TikTok trend that it is.
I remember at the time we mentioned Scene Queen, she got a lot of criticism from the metal
Mm-hmm.
community. And her argument was, yeah, but look at my lyrics, look at the meaning behind my lyrics. I'm trying to draw attention to difficult subjects, difficult things women have to go through. And as much as I respect that, her trying to shine a light on it, no one's getting that far. They're looking at her, they're hearing the music, they're thinking, fuck. And then they're not going in depth with it. They're not thinking, oh, wait a minute, I better read her lyrics. It's the whole, every metalhead I know, male or female, is not a fan. They also see it as some kind of pop fad.
Yeah.
I don't know any serious diehard Bimbocore fans. Do you know what I mean?
No.
And I feel, yeah, I feel very strongly that it is metal adjacent at best.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
I'll say about that.
Yeah, I mean, it has elements. I mean, I've actually researched this in terms of watching YouTube videos of interviews, music videos from Scene Queen and things like that. And I've actually looked at the lyrics, and to me personally, I'm a female, I'm a female in the metal community. I don't actually see any of the arguments or points that she claims that she's making. It's all very sexually explicit. And I'm all for body positivity. I'm all for acceptance, regardless of what background you come from, which gender you are, whether you're male, female, somewhere in between, whatever your ethnic background is. But lyrically speaking, I can't see any point that she's trying to make apart from being shocking and provocative.
Mm.
You know, like I said, I'm all for positivity, body acceptance, everything like that. I am all for that. But that is not what she's doing. She's doing it for attention. She's doing it for the shock factor with a little bit of metalcore thrown into the mix to try and get attention. I mean, when we're talking about TikTok trends, for example, there is one exception to this rule that I actually like, and that's Rory. She does a lot of ADHD stuff on TikTok and Instagram and things like that. She's one with the blue hair, if nobody knows what I'm talking about. She managed to create a platform about ADHD and her struggles with ADHD to begin with, as well as being a musician. You know, she's tried for years to become a musician and she's suddenly blown up now. Yes, okay, technically speaking, it is a TikTok trend, but her music is actually really, really good, and her lyrics do actually focus on various different aspects and important issues. Unlike Scene Queen, for example, I know I feel like I'm picking on Scene Queen, but it's the best example that I have here. She's doing the complete opposite. She's claiming that she's doing that, but when you actually look into it, she's not doing that at all. And she's relying on the aesthetics and the shock factor to try and get around that.
I think the best way I can describe it is style over substance.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the opposite of what everything that metal embodies and stands for. And I love seeing women in the metal scene. I encourage it, and we need more. Like all types of women. But I think if you're involved in something that's so entrenched as metal, it's been around such a long time. It's such a like big thing.
Yeah.
You have to also respect that.
Yeah.
You know, you can put your own spin on it, of course, and you know, we've got modern like death metal bands like putting their own style on it, but they still are sticking to the roots of metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I feel that that's really important, otherwise it's just going to get diluted. And I think that would be
Yeah.
really and I think the approach that the whole Bimbocore Barbiecore thing has, I don't think it fits in. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's something the metal scene is really needing.
Yeah.
The female part of it, absolutely, but the sparkly pink sucking dick element of it, I'm not sure. I
Yeah,
don't know.
definitely.
I'm being
I
blunt,
know.
but you know, my point.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, even when you look back to like the early starts of the female metal and rock stars, you know, the likes of Joan Jett, Lita Ford, Doro, Janis Joplin, for example, you know, back in the 70s, they were ridiculed because, you know, rock in the early stages of metal were seen, as you said, as a very male-centered art form. And it is because of the aggression, because of the masculinity. But these women came into that to prove that, you know, women are capable of that too, you know, and they fought tooth and nail and they went through so much ridicule. They got abused because of it, you know, trying to prove that, again, like I said about the suffragette movement, you know, we're not all just like airheads that like the girly things and, you know, are just there for sex and childbearing and running a household and stuff. You know, we can be kick-ass too, we can be aggressive too. And for what? For the Bimbocore scene to come along to effectively shit all over that, you know, whereas there's so many other female performers, solo artists, bands, musicians, vocalists, and then you know, there's females that are working behind the scene at the labels, at the PR, online, things like that, promotions, who are fighting against that to prove that, you know, we can do this just as much as the guys can.
Yeah.
And it's an insult. It really is an insult. There's nothing about it that's feminist in the slightest. Not at all. I mean, I've written down a definition from, you know, the Bimbocore fan site online. And it basically says, where is it? A feminist movement to take back femininity, pretending to be a dumb bimbo to manipulate men, right? Now, you can't claim to be a feminist, which is advocating for women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. You know, what part of falsehoods, as in pretending to be a stupid bimbo and manipulation of another sex, is feminist? It's a complete contradiction.
100%.
Completely. So
And
just
Just
Needs to
from a
stop.
human perspective, that's a shitty fucking thing to do.
Yeah, it is. It's a really shitty thing to do.
Like,
Nobody should
and it's a
pretend to
really
be
shitty
one
thing.
thing to manipulate another.
Yeah, and it's a shitty thing to promote. And it's just, imagine young women just starting their journey into metal and coming across that.
Yeah,
Now, a lot of women are strong-minded. They're not stupid. They know that that's not a good thing to do. But anyway, if you're setting that example, I just don't agree with it. It's
no,
wow,
not at
that
all.
definition is fucked.
It's really messed up. It's really
Yeah.
messed up. I saw it and I was just like, no way.
See, I'm trying to think of female metal artists who have sex appeal, but they're not, but they're still like kick ass. The first one I think of is Selena Cherry.
Yeah,
She's beautiful, and like I follow her on Instagram, and she's got all these cute outfits, and she's like, pick my stage outfit, but she fucking shreds. You know what I mean? Like she's got
yeah,
talent. She's a beautiful woman. She's owning her sexuality, but she's got fucking talent
yeah,
to back it up. She's not
yeah.
flaunting herself in that way.
No,
She's confident in herself and she's being feminine, but she's also like standing up to all the other guys with her talent. Do you know what I mean? Like I love that.
yeah,
Um, she's got a really good balance of doing that.
yeah. I saw her
I
live recently.
oh
Um,
cool.
yeah, Svalbard were supporting Alcest when I went to see them recently. And my
Mm,
God, her talent and her stage presence is incredible. Not only is she beautiful, like you say, she's beautiful, she's stunning, she's got a great dress sense, and she just
mm,
emanates femininity, but she's really powerful when she
does.
does it. And her talent is ridiculous. Fantastic band live.
I've never seen them live, but like I've seen videos and obviously like I follow her and she's got a great vibe. And another
Yeah.
one, Justine from Employed to Serve. Um, another beautiful lady doing her thing, still feminine, um, but just like she can growl. Holy shit! Like
Yeah.
I've seen them live and they're her stage presence again, powerful, um, just talent to go to back the whole thing up, and I think that's really important.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, another example of that, I've already mentioned her, is Christina Scabbia again. You know,
Mm,
she gets dolled up for her music videos, for promo shots and things like that. But you know, she's a very and I've had the joy of having a chat with her previously as well. And she's mentioned this as well. You know, she can get dolled up. She loves being feminine and, you know, the makeup, the outfits, the shoes and all that nonsense. But then she's also very much into her trainers or sneakers for our American audiences. You know, jeans, baggy t-shirts, video games, geeking out and stuff like that. You know,
mm,
you can be feminine whichever way you play it, whether it's the baggy t-shirts and video games or it's getting, you know, dolled up for a music video. You don't have to resort to, you know, underwear, pink sparkly stuff and talking about sex all the time in order to be feminine. It's quite simple.
absolutely. And I think any women listening to this who are just getting into metal, please remember that. If you like Bimbocore Barbiecore, fair enough. I mean, to each their own, right? But I think it's important that people know that it is not every metalhead I know sort of looks down upon it in some way, and not in like a gatekeepy way, but more in like a what the fuck is happening kind of way. Like,
Yeah,
what is this? What purpose is
yeah,
it serving? How is it evolving metal for the good? You know, I can't really answer those questions.
yeah. I mean, I get the, you know, the whole Bimbocore thing. It is meant to be a little bit tongue in cheek.
Mm,
You know, I understand that, but it's not clear.
no.
You know, she's not making that, you know, obvious. Like that Metal Hammer cover that you were talking about. I get that she was emanating that iconic Britney Spears Rolling Stone cover from like the early 2000s when she was at her height. Absolutely, I get that. But that's a very pop aesthetic that shouldn't really blend into the metal aesthetic. And when I say pop aesthetic, it's quite extreme for pop as well. You know,
Mm.
that's the kind of thing that I would expect on OnlyFans or Twitter because they don't censor that either.
Yeah. Style over substance, not a fan. There we go.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Put some
And we would
trousers
like
on.
put a jumper on, woman. And we would also like to hear people listening and watching what your opinions on the whole Bimbocore, Barbiecore trends are. Whether you're a woman or a man, please get involved, because we get involved in the comments too.
Women, man, anything else in between, let us know what your comments
everybody.
are.
Yes.
Everybody. Yep,
Yeah.
regardless of what kind of music you listen to, what subgenre you like. Even if you don't agree with us, we want to hear it and we'd like to understand why.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's time for the last segment of the episode, which is album of the week. Faye, what's your album of the week this week?
My album of the week is the new Fallujah album,
Yes.
Zenithal, which I totally remembered and didn't have to look up. Um, anyone who knows me, follows me, knows that I love Fallujah. It's technical, it's dreamy, it's hard sometimes. It's everything you want from extreme metal, but just a very sort of refined, very nice like experience. I've seen them live, and it was like I was in a trance. I hadn't taken any drugs, I promise. It was just
You don't need to.
no. It was so it was like an out of body experience. It's the only way I can describe it. Stunning. And this new album, I mean, yeah, it just lives up to everything I'd hoped for as a Fallujah fan. And stunning artwork as well. They always have great artwork. So yeah, check out if you haven't. It starts with an X, not a Z. So that's
It'll be on the screen somewhere.
It'll be somewhere here, yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Well, funnily enough, I also have a tech death album for my album of the week this week in the same kind of vein, and that's Rivers of Nile with their latest self-titled album. I love that album so much. I cannot stop listening to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I love the Fallujah album as well. That's an incredible album, but there's something about Rivers of Nile, I can't stop playing it. I just can't. It's the saxophone and the dreamy ambience, and then the crushing death metal, and then the technical aspect, and a lot of really cool melodics. It's everything rolled into one. And it sounds like when you describe it, it should be chaotic, but it flows so well. You know, that's the kind of tech death that I really like, where it kind of incorporates everything and it keeps you on your toes. So, like Rivers of Nile, Fallujah, Allegiant, that kind of sound, absolutely love it. But yeah, Rivers of Nile for me this week has just been perfection.
Good pick. Stunning album.
Awesome. Well, let us know what your opinion is on Bimbocore and what you guys have been listening to recently as well, because like I like hearing what people are listening to, because on occasion somebody will mention something that I've never heard of before and I'm like, ooh, I'll go check them out, and then I'm hyper focused on it for ages. Yeah. So let us know what you're listening to as well, because the more music the better.
Absolutely. We're here for
unless it's Bimbocore, in which case you're sacked.
Fuck off with that shit. Yeah. Yeah, well, thank you for listening and watching.
Awesome, guys. Thanks very much. See you next time.